I walked Te Araroa last year, which is a trail running the length of New Zealand. I literally narrated the journey to myself for 3,000 kilometres, and there was this crying, happiness, a lot of joy.
Welcome to Created Creative. I'm Dawn.
And I'm Ruth.
Happy January.
Happy January.
So we recorded an episode to prep for your trip to New Zealand, and you found out about this woman how?
I think it was on a group that I'm a part of for this New Zealand trail. Like they had mentioned a book called Northbound. That's the direction that I'm going to be doing the trail. And so I researched the book and then got it immediately. And it just so happened it had just come out. And so it's a new book and such a good book. I've listened to it a few times now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Her name is Naomi Arnold. And she just in 2023 had done the whole trail through New Zealand from south to north.
Okay, so we just said your trip to New Zealand. For those who don't know, what is the point of this trip?
The point of this trip is I'm starting this trail. I'm going to go as far as I can go in a month's time. I'll start at the bottom of the South Island of New Zealand and head north. And the point is to see if I can survive.
Is this like people who like that Reese Witherspoon movie where they do the
Wild.
Pacific Coast Highway, Pacific Coast Trail?
Yeah, Pacific Crest Trail.
Pacific Crest Trail, but this is the New Zealand version, which is new.
Yeah, it was in the early 2000s it was built. Maybe 2011 even. It's not very old.
When I went to New Zealand, it was not there.
Yeah, it's not a terribly established trail. So there's a lot more of using GPS. It's not like a trail like we often think of it here in most of the places, but it'll be fine.
One of my hardest hiking ever was on a glacier in New Zealand.
Yes, you posted a picture of that.
So
Yeah.
I can only imagine what you will encounter because I was like with a bunch of tourists and hiking on a glacier.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, someone knew the way out.
I'm going to have some good stories to tell.
Awesome.
But enjoy this interview with Naomi Arnold.
Hey, nice to meet you. Thanks for meeting with us.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I'm just so excited we all got here at the same time. That was my big worry
Yeah, we managed it.
because we haven't had someone in New Zealand on the podcast before. So anyway, we were so glad that you could be with us and spend some time with us, Naomi.
Oh, thank you. I'm honored to be asked.
This is just a real privilege. I love your book and we have so much to talk to you about. Would you mind if we begin? Could you introduce yourself to our listeners?
Sure. Hi, I'm Naomi Arnold. I'm a journalist in New Zealand. I'm in Nelson at the top of the South Island. And I walked Te Araroa last year, which is a trail running the length of New Zealand. So I walked it from Ross in the South Island to Cape Reinga in the North Island and wrote a book called Northbound. And that came out in April this year.
So for our listeners who may not be familiar with the Te Araroa, tell them how long that trail is.
Te Araroa stands for the long pathway in Māori. So it is about 3,060 kilometres. I don't know miles, sorry.
That's okay. I assumed you'd say kilometers.
But it changes slightly every year because it gets rerouted around landslides or closures and things like that. So it's roughly 3,060.
I'm going to do the math quick. 3,060 kilometers.
I think it's slightly less than the AT, maybe.
1901.
Yeah, I think I remember figuring it out.
So 1,900 miles.
Okay.
3,060
Yes.
kilometers for our listeners who are located in the United States right now.
Yeah.
Yes. And I loved so many things about your book, but I particularly really liked how you talked about how this trail kind of haunted you for many years before you actually did it. It's like you kept seeing it over and thinking about it and dreaming about it. Could you talk about that a little?
Yeah, when I was in my early 20s, a book came out called One Man Walks His Dream, and this was about 2002. And Jeff Chappell, who is a journalist in New Zealand, he had decided that the nation needed one long walking trail to connect all of the public tracks that were in the country. And various efforts had tried this before, but he managed to get the public and the private funding and gumption together around the turn of the millennium to connect up all of these bits and pieces and create one trail. He mapped it out and then he walked it, I think in the late 90s, and so I was still at high school in the late 90s. But he published this book and I read it at my friend's house. I just picked the book off their bookshelf and thought, I'm going to do that one day. I'm gonna walk it. And I think it was another 10 years before it officially opened, and there were rudimentary maps and signage. It was very different in 2011 from what it is today. There's a lot more infrastructure. There's the tags you walk with, a lot better marking. And it just took me kind of summer after summer, I'm going to do it. But to take 5 or 6 months off your job and then then do something like that. The money and the time, and it was just really difficult. I was establishing my career as a newspaper journalist here in Nelson. And then finally, I went to do it the summer of 2022, but I had a big contract come up. I'm a freelancer now, so I had a book come up, but I needed to take the contract. It was a good contract, so I finished that, postponed it again, and then the following year I just thought I have to stop postponing this and just do it. So I did, not without difficulty, because work continued to pop up and make life difficult. Well, I made difficult for myself, really, work with freelance work, but I managed to do it, and that's why it took 8.5 months instead of 5 or 6, because the first 3 months I had to keep popping off trail and back on, trying to finish this project that was meant to be finished. It was a different book that about 10 of us are working on, so it took a while, but we got there in the end.
The worst of the group projects and the best of the group
Yeah,
projects.
I had my iPad and I was working on my iPad with 9 others in Microsoft Word on a cell phone connection on my iPad in a campground. It just wasn't working. I couldn't sage the cloud, and it was so frustrating. So I'll never do that again. Yeah, never try and work that remotely.
This is newer than I realized.
The book?
Well, the book and also the trail.
Oh, yeah, it was. People have walked with New Zealand before, obviously. There was various stunts, and the trail has been drawn out. But yeah, it's quite new. It's less than 20 years old for sure.
I've only been to New Zealand one time, and I think it was 2007.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
I
it
wasn't
wasn't
even
open
aware
then.
that this
Yeah.
new thing was there.
No, a lot of Kiwis have not heard about it. Yeah.
So at the beginning of the book, you talked about how your husband brought you to the start of the trail, and he gave you like this one last warning. And how you wrote about it was so funny, because you'd said of all these things you had worried about beforehand, you hadn't worried about that one thing yet. And you had some scary experiences on the trail. Like, was it hard to keep going sometimes with the fears that you faced?
He's so funny. So he said if the Alpine fault goes, as in there's an earthquake, stay out of the rivers. The most specific piece of advice, because we're in New Zealand, we're all waiting for the Alpine fault. It's like is it the San Andreas fault? It's like this big one is coming, right? This earthquake along the Southern Alps. And his advice was, if those rivers get dammed by this potential earthquake, you will potentially get flooded when this potential dams break. It was so specific. And I was just like, God, you have really thought of everything to worry about. So I did think about the earthquake happening while I was on trail, but my fears are mostly around being abducted and murdered, or being seriously injured and not being able to push my emergency beacon. I was scared I would be unconscious and drown in a river or bleed out. Anything that could happen in the wilderness, I had kind of imagined it by then.
But here you are alive.
Yeah.
I made it out. Yeah.
And you also talked a lot about how you had visions of meeting so many people and forming a trail family and hiking with people, but you were alone a lot on the trail, especially on the South Island.
Yeah, I think actually I was more alone on the North Island, I think, overall. The South Island is really big and empty, but it was still summer. And the top half of the South Island, I actually was close enough to my home that friends and family pretty much continuously walked with me for maybe 3 or 4 weeks. And I was closer to home, the tracks are more familiar, so it wasn't as isolating. But yeah, I expected to meet a trail family, but I was going north and I was out of season because of this book that I was working on. I started at summer in New Zealand, early summer, and then walked all through winter, and then into the spring. So I had to go north to escape the winter in the south, which is alpine ice and snow filling up the valleys and mountains. And then in the North Island, I did not see a single other hiker, basically the whole way, except for a couple of day walkers, nearly the entire island. So that was from May, June, July, August, which is our winter.
Oh, right.
And then in September, I started to meet hikers again. Other than in towns, there was just no one out on the trail. And they could have been, the trails were fine, but everyone stayed home or I just missed them. But even in the hut books, you write in the log books, people hadn't been through in weeks. So I didn't realize how empty the trails were in winter.
So I have one practical question I want to ask you, because I've been listening to lots of podcasts and reading lots of books about the trail. And it sounds like it's not like a trail that you can see clearly sometimes, right?
Like a trodden path.
No, it's not the 6-inch highway of the PCT, whatever it is, however long it is. It's not as small as it. Yeah, it's New Zealand tramping. We call it tramping because it's got an element of wild bush bashing is what we call it. God, I'm just thinking of some of that. So sometimes the path was the river. You would walk down a river for a day or up a riverbed, wading and rock hopping. And sometimes it was tussock, which did tussock in over there, like big grasses.
Tall grasses.
Like clumps of grass.
Like like a
had to-
prairie.
Yeah, but there's thick clumps. So you'd step on these
Oh.
thick
Oh.
clumps of grass in a swamp, and it was a bog.
Oh, okay.
Or it was the track was a beach, or it was unmaintained. So it was just somewhere in this field, and you would just follow your or the wind. I mean, wind
Yeah.
throws. It would be familiar. So it's made up of public and private land. Still, it's not all public tracks. So there are some really nice, very popular hiking tracks that make it up, but in other places it is some farmer who has a unformed legal road going through it, which we call a paper road, which is public land officially, but it's part of someone's private property because the road was never built. It was for a town that was surveyed but never laid out, but became part of his big farm. So it's still public land.
Yeah.
And he doesn't mow it, so you don't know where you are. And yeah, it's still a bit wild.
So you were following your GPS a lot to make sure you were in the right spot.
Yeah, but even
Yeah.
I remember I was standing in the middle of the GPS spot and I could not see the trail because it was just trees down everywhere. And it was just, and then I looked down and I saw the
Ah.
orange triangle.
Like you were on it.
Yeah, in New Zealand
Oh.
we follow these orange triangles on trees. We don't follow white
Okay.
blazes.
Oh.
And I was on it, and I saw it on the underside. I was like, oh, I'm here.
Okay.
But yeah,
Oh my
5 meters
gosh.
that way, and you would go in a different direction. Often you just could not figure out where you were.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just New Zealand.
Oh,
With no
man.
money.
So, and I know you wrote about there were times that you got seriously off track and then you had to backtrack.
Yeah, I did.
So you probably put in a lot more than 3,000 kilometers.
I did, and there were seasonal closures too. So there was closures for lambing when the lambs are being born, the sheep baby.
Oh.
So a farm would be closed, and you'd have to go on a road, like instead of a 5 kilometre section, it's 30k around the farm because
Right.
you can't disturb the baby sheep, the baby lambs. And that was in August is lambings. So I walked a lot more than the kilometres, yeah. A lot of
Oh
detours.
my goodness.
So what's the practical question, Ruth?
Oh, that was the practical question. I was curious, like, how much was there actually like a trail you could see?
Sometimes.
But it sounds like a lot of it you just had to follow the GPS.
Yeah, or
Right?
just blunder around a bit, yeah. I wouldn't say a lot of the time, but a fair
The-
amount of the time. You just could not figure it out. I couldn't. Maybe some people, but I couldn't.
I will be starting at the south where you
Right.
did as well. And like how you wrote about the, what is it, the Longwoods?
Yeah.
Describe the Longwoods area for Dawn and
Oh,
our listeners so she
yeah.
could hear it.
So I think it's about 700 or 800 meters in altitude. It's a long, kind of flattish mountain range, but it doesn't drain. Like it's just a bog on top of the mountain, stunted alpine beech forest. And it didn't used to be like this before the trail, but the hikers have turned it into mud, like those muddy buddy events you get where it's like a mud race. People
Yes.
run
Yes. The
through.
mud is the point of the race.
The mud is the point. That is what it is.
Yeah.
So you wade through. In some places, it was up to my hips, and it's not like wading through water. You really can't get very far. So I would find myself just stuck in this quicksand, just trying to. I was literally lifting each leg, trying to pull it out with a pop and swing it over the top and forward. And I remember the strain of trying to pull my leg out of this muck that was straining all my tendons. My shoe would pop off, then you'd have to dig down to try and get your shoe. And just the frustration was enormous. I didn't have friends to make it fun. There was no one doing big
Yeah.
dives and coming up. There was nothing fun about it. And I just got so frustrated. Yeah, I did not have good emotional management during those 2 or 3 days. It was a couple of days. I think it even took me 3 days to get through that section. It was maybe 40 kilometers or so. But there was a couple of places like that and on the trail where the trail was, it was a bog. Yeah, it was a swamp.
Yeah.
And both of you
Oh.
think this is fun.
It was not fun and I hated it.
I don't know.
But they're actually going to fix some of it now because it's gotten quite bad. So they're putting in boardwalk, like wooden platform.
It would be nice if they had done that really quickly and it was in place
Yeah,
now.
they're
but-
fundraising.
But yeah, how you wrote about it, you did a very good job of the reader felt like they were right
Oh,
there
thank
in
you.
it with you. And
Oh, okay.
it just sounds like biblical.
It was. It really, really was. Yeah. It reminded me of the movie The Piano. I don't know, and it's a very old movie, but it was one of the landmark New Zealand films, and one of the main characters in that film was the New Zealand mud of the 19th century.
The
Just how intractable and endless it is, and that was what I thought of. It was The Piano.
That
Yeah.
score playing just to make the whole thing be epic.
Yeah, and I was only 13 when the movie came out, and I've actually never seen it, but that's how intense
Oh.
the film has embedded itself into my
Yes,
consciousness,
in your
cultural
consciousness.
Yeah.
Now, you wrote this book as you journeyed along, right?
yeah.
So you didn't wait till you got home. You wrote as you went. And how did that process go?
Because I'm a journalist, I'm used to taking notes on the fly. So I just started talking into my dictaphone and I took that with me and I just started talking to it immediately, actually, like as soon as I started walking. I went back and listened to the first recordings recently and it was like, wow, I've left Bluff and I've said goodbye to Doug and I'm walking through this green tunnel and I'm walking up some steps and I've passed an old World War II gun emplacement. yeah, and oh, here's some flax. It was just like I literally narrated the journey to myself for 3,000 kilometers. And there was this crying, happiness, a lot of joy. I didn't have it out all the time, but if I encountered someone, I would walk away muttering the conversation to myself. And eventually I started talking to my phone as well and taking videos, like just of the mud. I think I started taking video around then because I was just aghast. And some of them I put on Instagram, basically live streamed the whole last week or 250 kilometers and was a bit mad actually. Yeah, I took diaries, voice notes, videos, photos, voice memos, phone notes, and I started transcribing and writing while walking because there was lots of long road stretches. So I would listen to my voice notes on my iPhone and audio dictate it to my phone while I was talking in the notes app and just filtered it and wrote the book while doing a 30-kilometer stretch along the beach or the road or something like that, which was a way to pass the time. And then I would write it up at night in the huts because it was winter and the sun would disappear at 2 or 3 p.m. So I'd get into the hut and with my iPad and my battery packs and I'd write until I got too cold to type because it was freezing. And then by the time I got to Cape Verde, September 17th, I had most of the book in Scrivener, which is the thing I use. And then I got home and I had 10 days to file the entire book to my publisher because I was quite late to sort of sell this stuff at the beginning.
Oh, because you walked for longer than you thought.
Yeah. I was meant to be done in April and file the book in September, and I was done in September and filed it in October.
Wow.
So I just wrote up the last month, pulled it all together and sent it off, essentially. So I was still so much in the zone when I got back, and I had about 2 weeks. Yeah, and then it was done. So I wouldn't recommend that, but that's just what happened.
Oh my goodness.
What's your best advice for Ruth?
Just pack weight, but you'd already know. Just keep your pack weight down. Yeah, and I would spend the money to get life of year. I think it's worth it. New Zealand weather is so changeable. A lightning storm came up on a blue day and scared the hell out of me. Just being ready for the weather to really make itself known and take good shelter as soon as you think about it. And emergency locator beacon, if you don't already have one of those, I would take one of those. A helicopter will come and get you.
I've got one.
Yeah, it will come and pick you up.
I've got one.
Great. And you can text me. It's just stuck off.
Yeah, I'll be like, Naomi, what do I do? It sounds like a lot of people, most people at different times have to hitchhike to get from one spot to another spot. You talked a little bit about that in your book about sometimes you'd have your phone on like ready to record when one would stop but it always went fine, right? The hitchhiking.
I was really worried about again getting abducted and murdered, and that has happened in New Zealand. That has definitely happened. In the end, there wasn't much I could do. I was just so vulnerable. I remember I decided to walk through the night one day just for something to do towards the end, and I ended up doing 62 mountain kilometers in 36 hours or something ridiculous. So fit at that point. But at 7 or 8 p.m, I was walking along this country road near Cape Verde in the far, far north, and this car drove past me and it was dark, and then I turned and looked and I saw these red lights come on 100 meters down the road, and then it reversed and then drove towards like all women know what that feels like, and it drove slowly up beside me, and I turned my voice memos on so that if I was murdered, someone might know what happened and who got me, right? So that was my instinct, was to start recording. And then this car pulled up and this woman called out, "You all right, honey? Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, no, I'm fine, thanks." She said, "You're out here in the dark and you got somewhere to stay tonight?" And I lied and said, "Yeah, I'm just camping up the road," because I just didn't tell her I was planning to walk all through the night over the mountain range to the next town. And then she was like, "Oh, you'll be okay. There's good people out here. There's good people out here. You'll be okay." And she had all these kids in the back seat, and it was so sweet. And I was still unsafe. It didn't prove that I was not unsafe, but it was just a nice moment of realizing most people are okay.
Some people are looking out.
Yeah, and it still could have been a murderer, but it wasn't at that point. Yeah.
What sort of animals would you worry about walking through the night?
There aren't any in New Zealand to worry about.
Okay. I thought that, but then I could be uninformed, you know?
Yeah, there are wild pigs. I walked alongside wild pigs one night, but they would not go for you, I don't think. It was one of my fears. Is this wild boar going to gore me? There's only goats, pigs, possums. They're all pests. None of them are native. There is nothing. Goats, pigs, possums, deer. I saw a lot of deer, but everything would run away.
Not a lot of things that want to eat you.
No, nothing. Just the land and the weather.
Yeah. You wrote about at the very end, I mean, your poor feet at the end. You really suffered as you were finishing. Your feet had been through so much. And you want to talk a little bit about that, about the last day?
Yeah, your feet would just never dry because if you weren't crossing a river, it was wet grass in the rain. And foot management was, I just struggled so much with it. I could not keep my feet dry. And because it was winter, I was walking through dew a lot. So they'd get saturated in the morning. And even though I had trail runners, they just wouldn't dry out. So my feet, they just got munched up all the time. I had the toe socks, I had all the things everyone tries, but something would fail and they would get sore. And once they were sore, it would take a few days to heal. And I wasn't resting searching for them. I just kept going. So I would just, when I got to 90 Mile Beach, which is the last, it's not actually 90 miles, it's I think 88 kilometers, just a long stretch of beach. I don't know why they call it 90 Mile Beach. It's just a colloquial name, but that's the last bit before the Cape, and the sand was like glass, just really fine. It was ground up glass really, so it was just really fine particles, and as long as your feet didn't get wet, you would be okay. But my feet were already destroyed from a lot of road walking, just the rubbing and the friction, and I just would tape them up. Oh my gosh, that's right. And I remember being in the camping ground, and they were throbbing so much one night that I pulled off the dressings and looked at them, and they were black, like my little toes. And I was like, is that dirt? And then I went to the shower at 2 or 3 a.m. and I sat down in the shower with a needle. I was like, I need to see what's happening here. And I like pried off because my little toes were long gone, they'd gone. But I pried off the nail bed, and it was like this little trapdoor opened up, and like half my toe was gone, and it was like this black. I was like, oh my God, what is this? Is this dead or is it mud? I couldn't actually tell. And then I just had this wave of nausea just hit me in the shower. Like I just felt like I was going to faint. And so I just got out of the shower, like antiseptic cream, taped them up. I thought they were going to get infected and I would get sepsis very quickly. So I was like, I've just got to get to the end of this trap. So I cut my shoes, I think. I can't quite remember what I did. Maybe I didn't at that point, but I didn't sleep that night. So I got up at 5 a.m. and I'm just going to walk to the end. And I had 80 or 90 kilometers to go. And I was okay. I walked 62 kilometers that day without stopping. I think I sat down once to snack along the beach, and they were okay. Like I'd created enough room in them, and it was actually easier to run. So I was running, which took the pressure off this constant gait. And at 8:30 p.m. it was dark. I walked through a river that had come onto the beach. All the tide came in and just flooded my shoes. And from then on, it was agony. Like, because the sand all got in them, and the dressings came off, and it just grated them absolutely raw. And by the time I got to the end, I was just hobbling. I had 1% battery, and then my phone died when I got to the end. There's no one there to meet me, and it was very remote. But I got up to a tour bus that had pulled up to take visitors onto the beach, and the bus driver let me sit in his bus and out of the wind, because I had to take my shoes off because it was so painful, but the wind was biting into these open wounds, and I was just sick. I hadn't eaten because I'd run out of food.
There's a lot of things.
The bus driver let me sit in his bus, and he gave me his lunch and a pie, we have savoury meat pies in New Zealand, like a handheld pie, and it was the best thing I've ever tasted. And he gave me little slippers to wear that someone had left on the bus for some kid. They were 5-year-old slippers, so they only covered like the top because they were just for a child.
Yeah.
And he was so kind. And then I just walked around town, and my heels were hanging out of these little slippers, and found some flip-flops. We call them jandals, and the toes were destroyed for a couple of weeks. And then I had the adventure race when I got home. Anyway, I could go on and on about those, but it was profoundly painful.
Oh, but you finished.
Yeah.
And then when you finished, you said there was nowhere left to walk. And now I had to find out who was left behind. So you walked all that way, and it was time to figure out who you were now that this walk was done.
Yeah, I remember I wrote the old me had been burned away, and the trail burned me up and turned me inside out. And I got home and I had social anxiety, actually, because I'd been alone the whole time. I'd probably gotten a bit strained. Yeah, crowds made me quite anxious. Like I felt very apart and separate. I couldn't really join in things. I was writing the book for a couple of weeks, so that took a while, but even at the family wedding, I felt very anxious. It was at a church, and I had to keep going into the prayer room to be by myself because I was having panic attacks, really, like this heart pounding and anxious. And then slowly, I actually got COVID, my first COVID this year, January 2025.
Oh, wow.
I avoided COVID the entire time. I masked and vaccinated and all that. And then I got it for the first time, and it hit me so hard. And then I had long COVID. Like I had a lot of brain fog and fatigue for probably a couple of months. Nothing too bad, but I was quite absent and then very fatigued. And so I had all this fitness, but by the time that was over, about March, April, I was really back to normal. The COVID had just drained me completely, and I'd lost all my fitness and my energy. So I was back to my normal self, and slowly gotten back into my old life. And now it feels like, did that even happen? What was that like? Who was that person? Yeah. Yes.
What lessons have you brought forward?
I'm quite good at packing now. So a lot more organised and ship-shape. I got my little packing thing a lot tidier. And my kit, my gear, because I travel a lot for work doing journalism writing.
Yes.
The lessons that I learned, we're so much more capable. And you can think you are not capable even while you are doing it, all the way until the end. You can think, I'm not doing it. And it's, I've just done that. So yeah, I think it's almost like you need to step outside yourself and realise that, no, you are doing what you think you couldn't do, even in this moment. And just recognise that. And it doesn't feel any different. Maybe you've got someone with chronic illness or a really difficult, you're caring for someone or a family situation, and it's like the suffering is happening, but it's not going to get better. This is the moment in which you are living, and it doesn't change, but at the end you've survived. And if it's not okay yet, it's not the end. And all those cheesy motivational quotes, they just really came true. Yeah, I had a new understanding.
There's something to be said.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a cliche because it has
For
a
a
deep
reason.
truth in it. Yeah, there's a lot of those things that I had a new understanding of, a lot of like life truisms or advice. And yeah, I'm trying to think of more right now, but I can't at the
Yeah.
moment. It's a statement.
How has the process gone with sharing the book now that it has come out?
Yeah, I was thrilled. It was a bestseller immediately, and it stayed in the bestseller lists for a couple of months. So that was really good. And it's been named, I think it's the best of 2025 on 4 or 5 lists, newspaper lists. Yeah, so I'm really happy about that. And in terms of nonfiction lists.
Yeah.
And I've had hundreds of people contact me, which is for us in New Zealand feels like a lot. I've got people DMing me on Instagram, a lot of women, big, strong men were out hunting or reading it while hiking by themselves in a tent by a river, and they shed a little tear and thank you for writing this. And I don't normally write to authors, but this really moved me, and a lot of his dad seemed to like it, but my friend's dads apparently couldn't put it down. So I don't know, it struck a chord for some reason, probably because it's a diary, really. It's quite in the moment. So I've been thrilled with the response. Yeah, while I was writing it, well, not realizing I was writing it, and then it was done. And I did not have any concept of how it would go, of how it would be received. And so I've been really surprised by everything. It's almost like I feel like it's outside myself a bit. It's been great.
So you obviously must have had the book deal before you left, like you came up with the idea. Tell
Yeah.
us how that went.
So I've written about 5 books now, I think, for various nonfiction topics. And I wrote a book called Southern Nights, which was on New Zealand astronomy, because we've obviously got different stars here than the Northern
Yes.
Hemisphere. That was for HarperCollins. And I'm a science journalist, so that was a science book, but it covered the culture of astronomy as well. How Polynesian people voyaged to the stars and the early astronomy set up here. So I had to learn all about that. And that book is still selling. That was 2019 that came out. And then for years, I pitched HarperCollins various other books. Hey, I'd love to do this, XYZ, and hey, how about this? So I would just email the publisher and say, hey, I've got this idea. And I always liked hiking, so I had quite a few hiking, tramping books in there. Hiking women, various ones around women, outside. And one of them was a Te Araroa book. I said, I've always wanted to book Te Araroa. How about I do and do this? And they said, we've actually already got a book in the pipeline, so no thanks. And I was like, oh, I'm going to walk it anyway this year, and I think I'm going to write anyway, right? I don't need a book deal to start. I just want to do it. And as a freelance journalist, everything is copy. All of life is copy. So I planned the walk, and then my publisher, Holly, said, hey, are you still walking Te Araroa? Our book has fallen over. She's pulled out. Yeah, I'm actually going this summer. She's like, great, here's the contract. Like, basically,
That was it.
I wanted to walk the length of New Zealand, and I wanted to detail the environmental pollution that has been happening along a certain path. It wasn't necessarily related, but I wanted to go to this most polluted lake or this quarry or this mine or this sewerage system and look at the environmental and toxins that had happened in that place, and then look at people who were cleaning it up. So just tell the stories, like 12 sites, and how are we going to remediate this damage. And it was a bit more of a serious scientific environmental journalism effort, which I still want to do. And Holly said, how about a character-driven travel memoir instead? And I said, great, that sounds great.
We'll do that.
I'd love to do that. And I did, yeah. So I started out
Yeah.
with this contract, but very quickly I forgot about the whole thing because it was so difficult. So I was dictaphone recording, but not writing anything really until I was writing a diary, but the book did not take shape until the North Island when it was winter. So I'd type up notes where I could, but I was still working on this other project that was meant to be finished at that time. So I was quite distracted by that. So I started really writing the book from May to September. I wrote the book, on trail and then off it. So it was in the back of my mind, and then I really got into it in winter because time was kept running out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Had to happen.
Yeah, it had to
Right.
happen.
What's the next book? The environmental or something else?
I actually thought that'd be a good podcast because there are some really polluted sites here, and to be able to go to one of them, there's a really bad lake, Lake Ellesmere in Canterbury, and to be able to go there with a local kaumātua, which is a local Indigenous Māori elder who used to fish there and used to draw their food, their kai, from this lake, and to be able to go there with people and stand there and hear their voices would be a more powerful way of telling that particular story. I think a documentary or podcast would work better for that idea, but I have one idea percolating for another book, but it's not formed enough to talk about yet. Nothing has jumped out yet, but I've started to remember what it's like to have a new idea, because this has just been my idea for so long, and I've been very focused on it and focused on responding to everyone. And I've been to a lot of book festivals and a book tour around New Zealand for the last 6 months, and traveling a lot and doing my journalism work and starting to feel what it's like to have a new idea again. And it's a really nice feeling, actually. Yeah, I want to try and honor that and dive into it a bit more as it develops, which is outside my control. Or
Right.
you have to put yourself
Yeah.
in the way of the
Yeah.
idea.
So fun to be back in that part of the cycle.
Yeah, and it's okay, so this could be a 5-year project or something. Yeah.
Hopefully it won't be
Yeah.
so physically straining the next idea.
I know. That's a good point.
Is there anything that you would be interested in having coaching on today?
Yeah, even though I've written 5 or 6 books, it's still the process of almost believing in the kernel of an idea enough to give it time in your life to develop. Because at the moment it's summer, I wake up at 5
Right.
a.m. I can't help it. I don't want to, but it's light.
The sun does it.
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
birds are here. We live in the country, and my dog weakness. So 5:30, I'm awake, and you know what? I don't get it. I scroll, and it's like, how do I get myself out of bed? And I waste an hour listening to the dog whine. It's like I could be here at my desk, and I could be creating a work in those beautiful early morning hours, looking out in the sunrise, which is over there, and the trees and the birds. And it's like, how do you just get that impetus when there's nothing's being created? You've got nothing to work on. But I'm really interested in catching this idea as it comes past. Elizabeth Gilbert wrote about that, didn't she?
Oh, I was thinking of her as you were talking.
A poem comes across the landscape, right? It comes roaring, you have to grab it. She didn't write that, someone else did. But yeah,
Right.
I was wondering what your thoughts were on honoring a creative impulse when you're just not sure what's coming down the pipe.
There is something to be said for just the open space of listening to the dog bark. There is something percolating. The Elizabeth Gilbert idea of you've got to be at the desk writing when the muse comes along.
Yeah.
Do you need an accountability partner to get you to the desk?
Oh, you know what? My husband often jokes about that, and I don't think it's good to have a partner do it because then you just end up bickering, right? No. I'm going to go for
not
it.
your husband.
But do you mean like someone to check in each day on what you've achieved? Yeah, I think that would probably help actually.
That would help. And
Yeah.
or find someone who wants to work at 6 a.m. in your time zone. So they could be anywhere in the world. It could be any time for them, but you're both going to log on, say hello less than 2 minutes, and then leave the camera on, but the sound off.
Yeah, body doubling.
And you're working.
Yeah.
And then you just check in at the end.
Yeah.
They would see if you left.
That works so well, doesn't it? That physical presence.
It does. It's weird.
Yeah. I've never done it, but I can definitely see how that would work. You go to the library, people are quiet, and you're just like, oh, I'm
Right.
in this space now.
You're like, oh, everyone's studying.
Yeah, exactly. I guess I should be. But working from
Right.
home is probably one of my main issues. Yeah, I still
Right.
battle with it after 10 years.
This isn't exactly like that, but I have some other people in business who we check in every Monday at noon Eastern, and they are in some other time zones. But it's just, okay, my work week is starting because I'm talking to these people, even though our businesses are in no way connected.
Yeah, I think I still battle
just-
with the 9 to 5, like creating a 9 to 5 for myself while freelancing. Yeah.
Or
Like,
you
it's
don't need to work 9 to 5. Work
Yeah.
14 hours and then 2.
Yeah, but I think it's almost like I react to something happening rather than creating an action. Like I'll react to an email rather than create the forward motion. So it feels more like that.
Yes, the temptation, if you're going to lay for an hour, would be to take in information in that first hour.
It
Check
does,
your
and
phone.
it's not revelation. It's nonsense.
Ariana Huffington had a whole book about in her bedroom is like an actual old alarm clock and her phone is in
Yeah.
another room.
Yeah, get that phone out
For
of the
that
way.
reason. Yeah. She did say like her daughters have some other way of getting a hold of her.
Yeah, I know. And like I do notice like this black hole of the phone, your eye just keeps getting drawn to it, right? This
Right.
every person has this, but it's like downstairs in a drawer and I forget about it. But like because it's been so beautiful here the last month or so, these are precious hours. You are wasting the day. Like your mother would come in and open the curtains when you're a child.
Right.
Get
Like-
up, you're wasting the day
Right.
on the weekend mornings or something. I feel like I've got that sort of, it's like a lull between projects.
Yes. And so you don't have this drive.
I think an accountability partner is a great idea. Yeah, because nothing's happened yet. There's no contract, but I know I could create.
Right.
Yeah, in that space. Yeah, there we go. I've done
Yeah,
it now.
the
I've
accountability
talked about it.
partner. So you don't need to feel guilty. We just need to find ways around it, like connecting with someone, setting a coffee date if you want to get out.
Yeah,
that
I really
kind of
wanna-
thing.
I want to be in the world at that time and not in the digital space at all.
Yeah,
I wanna
or a
be out
walking
in the world.
partner.
Yeah.
Like somebody who wants to take a walk every morning at 30.
6 a.m. Be great. Yeah.
Are these things even in the realm of helpful? I don't know you
No,
well.
it is. It's actually helpful just to talk. It's all stuff I tell myself, but it is helpful to articulate it as a problem. Like, it's just something I was vaguely aware of. It's like, God, I could be doing something like that. But I should be getting up and hiking right now.
Next Monday, can you text Ruth a photo of you out on a walk at 6
I
a.m.?
will. I'll write that down.
And it gives you a couple
Yay.
days to find a friend.
Yeah. Okay, great.
That would be great.
Yeah. Okay. Next Sunday, walk at
We're
6
all
a.m.
the
I can-
accountability.
I know.
Yeah,
You got to
and then
do
I can and then I can pepper you with more questions about the
it. Yeah, I'm
Roa.
happy to answer any questions for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I love talking about
But we need a
sunrise.
photo with a timestamp.
We
that
do,
you're out.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I can do that.
Don't worry if it's cute. Take it of the sunrise.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah.
I've got this friend who does a sea swim and lives by the coast every morning, every evening. You just, God, what a dream that would be, just to run down to the beach every day. And he just needs the ocean. He needs that. And we've got a lovely little forest track here, which I just sprained my ankle on this week, actually, so I haven't been walking. But to be in that forest and forest bathing at that time of day, it's once you're in there, you realize what you're missing by just like being inside every single day.
But getting there is hard.
Yeah, just getting out the door. And put your shoes on out the door.
Right.
That's where dogs are helpful.
I think you just
I
need someone to do
know.
it with you.
I know, it's about having someone, it is just accountability and voicing it and having someone aware of what you're doing, just like someone parenting you through it. It's like your mum helping
Right.
you, I don't know, God, do your homework. Yeah, gently.
I often, to myself, quote Ruth, who
Yeah.
had a broken microwave and fixed it. And she was like, we can live better than this.
Absolutely.
Like, you don't have to deal with a broken microwave handle.
I
We can
know.
live better than this. So when I'm like wasting a lot of time or haven't cleaned up my space, I can live better than this. Like, I can choose how each day is. We can live better than.
And there's that funny creator on TikTok, I think, who records how long jobs take her that she's cut off for years. She will say,
yeah.
"Right, this drawer has been a mess since COVID. I'm going to tidy it and I'm going to time how long it takes me. It takes her 6 minutes.
But it's been bothering her for 5 years.
Yeah, I know. We need to sort out my husband and I, our wills and our power of attorneys. And the lawyer will email us every 6 months, but we have yet to sign and return the documentation.
Right.
I meant to sort that out before I went on trial, actually. My will.
Gosh,
Thank you. It's helpful.
I can tell you how wonderful it is to be able to talk to you, and wishing you all the best as you continue to share this wonderful book,
you.
Northbound. And everybody should get a copy and read it, because you'll feel like you're traveling through New Zealand and read it.
Yeah. Also, I love thinking of it as an international travel book about New Zealand. I love to think of it as something that's a slice of life here. That's cool, please.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us for Created Creative.
We're so glad that you could be with us today, and don't forget to go create something.
Go create something.